So hello. As requested, I'll be sharing with you how French aromatherapy and formally studying aromatherapy has influenced the way that I use essential oils. So for those who don't know me, hi, my name is Jessie. I'm an aromatherapist. I started my essential oil journey in the MLM community. MLM oils is what I use. And then I decided I want to get certified to really learn more about essential oils, realize what I learned isn't really necessarily what it actually is. And then I started to be more and more exposed to French aromatherapy, which also transformed the way I use essential oils. So in this video, I'll be talking about having 5 different sections. First one is the misconception, what French aromatherapy is not. The second thing I'll be talking about is why people may be upset about me doing this video and suggesting that there is a French aromatherapy or even calling it that. 3, what are some differences I personally have noticed? 4, how studying aromatherapy formally and how French aromatherapy influences the way I use essential oils. And then at the end, I'll do a little conclusion with some reflection points. And for those who are here live, feel free to ask any questions that you have because we'll be having a question and answer period at the end. So feel free if you're watching the replay to skip to the section you want, as well as just watching this on double speed because it is unedited. So I'm going to put a quick little thing here saying, say hi if you're here, ask questions if you want. If you do, I will answer them at the end. So quick disclaimer, I will put a disclaimer, actually many disclaimers up here saying this may upset people. And I've had people hinting at or even blatantly saying that I'm wrong when I talk about French aromatherapy, that it doesn't exist, that it's just an MLM marketing term. And funny, a lot of people who say that to me, that it doesn't exist at all, are people who don't speak French. I'm not saying that to be rude, but it's just an observation I've made. People who don't speak French are telling me that French aromatherapy doesn't exist, which, I respect their opinion, but for me, I kind of disagree with that. And I'll be talking about that. So disclaimer, these are just my opinions, views on what I've seen, what I've learned. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. I'm continually learning. And I'm sharing this to the best of my abilities and my continually expanding knowledge. If you disagree with me, if you want to add things about what I've said, if you agree with me, whatever, if you know how to do it in a respectful manner without attacking me or people in the comment section, please do so. Because I think it's really important to open up that dialogue. I feel like this is a conversation a lot of people aren't having. It's just kind of like, no, French doesn't exist. French aromatherapy doesn't exist. And they just cut, the conversation ends there, which I think is too bad. So first thing I'll be talking about is, what is aromatherapy not? You'll see that I'll look down once in a while to look at my notes. I really want to make sure I say things like I should. So I have it down here. If I look down, that's why. Most of the times, aromatherapy is not what is being preached and taught in MLMs. Just want to say that up straight because I hear a lot of people will say, oh, well, my company, usually MLM companies, will say, we do the French method. That's why we do put essential oils in our water. That's why we ingest constantly essential oils. That's why XYZ. And I want to say the term French aromatherapy is not an excuse to practice unsafe and dangerous practices. And you may be wondering, what am I talking about when I talk about unsafe practices? I'm talking about just casually ingesting essential oils without purpose, without considering safety, ingesting essential oils daily just for the fun of it, just for flavor, or using essential oils internally in an unsafe manner, or just generally in an unsafe manner. I see a lot of people, I've gone to different lives of different kind of MLMers and stuff, and they will take essential oils internally saying this is the French method. Sometimes they'll even been taking 2, 3, up to 8 drops in one sitting in a 20-minute live, adding it to their waters and stuff. And I want to be clear that adding essential oils to your water, to your drinks, is not French aromatherapy. And another thing I see a lot of times is people will use On Guard and Thieves and add it to their tea and coffee. And I'm going to take a quick moment just to go over that a little bit. If you look at the ingredients of these 2 blends, they're slightly different, mostly the same, but both of them have, if I remember correctly, clove, cinnamon, eucalyptus, rosemary, and then depending on which company, there'll be a different citrus. And if we just look at the safety considerations of just one essential oil being cinnamon bark, you'll see that using it internally, according to Tisserand's research, It's not recommended internally if you're taking anticoagulant medications, so kind of blood thinners, diabetic medications, if you're undergoing major surgery, you have peptic ulcers, hemophilia, and other bleeding disorders. So just saying that, a lot of people just promote, yeah, put like thieves and On Guard in your water, in your tea, in your coffee. What a great way. You really want to be considering the safety considerations when you're doing this. One, because it doesn't mix with water. And according to Tisserand, it doesn't mix with milk either. And then we have the safety considerations of each essential oil in the blend that you're taking internally. So yeah, French aromatherapy, what is it not? In my opinion, I feel like French aromatherapy can be a marketing term peddled to promote unsafe usage of essential oils. So that to me is not actually French aromatherapy. Just want to be clear about that. And a side note, on the other side with aromatherapists, I feel like so often I will see different kind of aromatherapists just write off French aromatherapy and say it doesn't exist. It's just, internal usage. That's all that it really means. Or that it's just a made up idea in the MLM industry, which respectfully, I do disagree. I think there's a lot more to it than that. And for me personally, I've seen too many differences in the way that I've learned in my English school in North America how to use essential oils versus what I see actually done in France. So for me, just seeing that many of the differences, I can't just write off French aromatherapy as a marketing term by the MLMs, even though it is used as a marketing term to promote and peddle unsafe usage. Okay. So if you're actually curious to dig into a little bit more, like where does this term French aromatherapy come from? I'm actually going to link a little article you can check out after you watch this video. I don't really remember the name of the person who wrote it, but I think it's really well done. I don't know if it's like just speculation, really intelligent speculation of like where this term started, why they believe it did, who practiced what, and why it got incorporated into the MLM world. You can definitely check that out if you're interested. The link is down below. And then we're going to talk about the next part, and that is why people might be upset about this. So why people might be upset about this. And of course, I lost this sheet that I was actually going to speak off of, but I'll just kind of go off of memory. So I'm not making this to upset people, clearly, but I feel like there's people from the MLM side that might actually be upset because they think I might be being rude, bringing this up and saying that there's a lot of unsafe things going out in the MLM community. Again, not my intention. I'm not trying to attack, but I do want people to be able to have their eyes open to make really educated, empowering, safe decisions for them and their family. That's why I'm doing it. On the other side, I feel like there might be other people who may be aromatherapists or people who follow different aromatherapists that might be upset about this because I feel like, unfortunately, when people use the term French aromatherapy, that automatically it gets right off as people thinking I am promoting unsafe practices. They think that I might be just kind of playing into the MLM agenda, which I'm not. Or they might think I'm just trying to push ingestion, because sometimes people will say, well, French aromatherapy is just like another way of saying to use essential oils internally. It's not that. Do people in France use essential oils internally? Yes. But there's more than that in terms of differences in what I've seen. And I want to communicate that because nobody else is talking about it. And I want to be able to open up the conversation. So if you know more about this, please add what you think and what you know, because I want to learn more. So some differences I've noticed between French and English, French aromatherapy, English aromatherapy. I'm trying to do quotations to say it's not actually a thing for most people. I don't even know. Some people will say, well, aromatherapy is aromatherapy. There isn't French, there isn't British, there isn't Brazilian, there isn't Mexican. There's just like aromatherapy is aromatherapy. However, like I'd mentioned, I feel like there's too many differences I've seen, like consistent differences, that it's hard for me to just say aromatherapy is aromatherapy no matter where you are. So quick transparency disclaimer. I want to share with you what my actual experience is and what I know. So my actual experience, have I been to France? No. Have I studied in France aromatherapy, like aromatherapy in France? No. Would I like to? Yes. Will it happen? Maybe not. So that being said, I've studied in English-speaking places in North America. But I do speak French. I do read books in aromatherapy in French. I do follow different French aromatherapy professionals on YouTube, on Instagram, which is just like, it's crazy to see the differences for me personally. And I even live in a place where we speak French. So it's a part of Canada where they speak French. I've actually, when my eyes actually opened up to this whole like French aromatherapy thing might actually be a thing. Because when I was in the MLM world, I was like, oh, it's a French thing. French aromatherapy, it's a real thing. I left the MLM world and I heard a aromatherapist say, no, it doesn't exist. So in my mind, I was like, oh, it doesn't exist. It was just a made up like marketing term. And then I got to this point where I was like, maybe it's actually a thing. Maybe there actually are differences. So when I had this awakening moment was when I went to a aromatherapy boutique where I live, and I bought different kind of essential oils. And I noticed on one of the essential oil, it was turmeric, that it said it's abortive and neurotoxic. So it's not recommended for women who are pregnant. And I was like, I don't remember learning that in aromatherapy school. I looked it up in like Tisserand's safety book, couldn't find it. And I was like, that's weird that that company would say that. My sister-in-law bought me a book, a French aromatherapy book. It said the same thing about turmeric, not recommended in pregnancy. So I started to see like these clear repeating patterns in each language, in each like culture, I guess, if you want to say. So that's when I was like, okay, I need to explore this a little more. So I'll be sharing with you 4 main differences I've seen. Again, I haven't studied it yet. I'd like to, but 4 differences. One is ingestion. I feel, I've seen ingestion is something I've seen more accepted, more practiced in France, where with English speaking aromatherapists, it's not really something we can practice in North America with our clients and stuff like that. So yeah, the ingestion, which this is where people say, oh, French aromatherapy just means ingestion. I don't think so. Personally, not my opinion. I don't think it's just ingestion. Second is I've noticed that the French technically, usually, generally, use higher dilution rates. Just a trend I've noticed. However, they still use 1% on their face. So just because it says higher dilution rates doesn't mean we're going to go wild and use whatever. But they still use, interestingly, 1% on their face, which is what English aromatherapists teach as well. And something I'll mention too when it comes to internal usage of essential oils and what I've noticed in French aromatherapy professionals, they actually dilute it. This may be a surprise to you. It's a surprise to me when I figured it out. And they still use lower dilutions when using internally. Like I've seen, for example, Dr. Penuel, when he's done certain things like in his, I think it was his honey or whatever he's making, or when he's done it, other concoctions, sometimes he uses like a toothpick to pick out a little bit of essential oil, not even using a full drop at times. I mean, sometimes he probably does, but it's just kind of mind-blowing to see that so often in the MLM community, when I was there, people would say, okay, like take your frankincense oil and like hit her back, put them under your tongue, not diluting it, just kind of like all these kind of things. I'm not seeing this in France. I'm not seeing this in French aromatherapy. I might be missing something. I don't know everything, but what I'm seeing is a general practice promoted by aromatherapists in France is that if you're using essential oils internally, we're still diluting it. And they're actually rather, in my opinion, heavily diluting it, which is something I think people should be aware of. So they use higher dilution rates, which I'll share the dilution rate differences right after. Third is that they have different safety precautions. This was something that really caught my interest and really opened my eyes when I talked to you about the turmeric that I bought from a boutique here in French-speaking Canada. They'll say like certain essential oils are not safe in pregnancy, right? France will say that, French-speaking aromatherapists, but then Tisserand or English-speaking aromatherapists will say there's no known precautions, no known dangers or whatever. I think I've also seen, I should probably double check this, but like I believe there's even other ways where it works the other way around, where English will say it's not safe, French will say it's fine. It's kind of, there's different safety precautions I've seen. Another thing interesting that I've noticed is like for cinnamon bark, let's say cinnamon bark, it's really hot oil. I'm sure you guys know which I'm talking about. English, I've noticed they'll say generally they don't promote the ingestion. So we don't really promote the ingestion of essential oils, cinnamon, but they'll say it's safe if you put it on your skin, but you have to highly dilute it to like a 0.07, I think it is, like highly diluting it. I'll put it down in the description if I'm wrong, but 0.07% dilution rate, or you can diffuse it. Or I've seen the French basically say they don't recommend it topically putting on your skin. They don't recommend it diffusing unless it's diluted with another essential oil, not a carrier oil, because you don't want to dilute with a carrier oil in a diffuser. But they'll say they recommend that if you diffuse it, it's with another essential oil. But it is recommended internally. So I kind of am getting the impression from the stuff I've seen in the French aromatherapy is that cinnamon is more intended for internal use. Where if you look at the English, they're like, don't do internal usage, but then they promote the other things that the French might say, maybe not, kind of thing. Okay, different safety precautions. Fourth thing is I've seen like different phototoxic blanket statements in France. What I mean by this is I've seen this a lot where they'll say, oh, if it's like a citrus oil or like with the peel or whatever, a citrus oil, it's phototoxic, just automatically. Where if you look at like Robert Tisserand's safety book, you'll look and you'll see that which essential oils are actually phototoxic, which ones aren't when it comes to citrus oils or whatever. Because orange essential oil, sweet orange, is actually not phototoxic. It doesn't have the furanocoumarins in it that would make it phototoxic. Where you'll see like some companies, like MLM companies, just make that blanket statement, just like the French do, and saying like, oh, it's like a citrus, so that means it's phototoxic. Not necessarily the case. Because I've seen this one French aromatherapist that I actually follow. She said that one of these non-phototoxic citrus oils were phototoxic because of the furanocoumarins in it. So I asked her, hey, could you tell me which furanocoumarins? Because I'm really intrigued. Because for me, I don't see the furanocoumarins. I see that it's not phototoxic for that specific oil. But yeah, anyways, blanket statements. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the different dilution rates. So I'm going to start with the English. Then I'm going to finish with the French. The English dilution rates that I'll be sharing with you right now are ones really promoted by plant therapy. I chose plant therapy because it's pretty reflective of my training. It's pretty reflective of what I see elsewhere. And it's something that you can find if you want to refer to it later. Again, you'll see kind of different variations, but generally it looks like this. So 1%. 1% is for the face, for children over 2, for long-term or daily usage. English. Okay. English for 2% is bath and body products, daily usage. 3% for the English is localized, specific localized issues. So let's say it's like your shoulder, let's say it's your stomach, let's say it's your knee, it's localized, it's in one area. And then 5 is for more short-term specific concern. So to be used no more than 2 weeks. Let's say I fall, twist my ankle, I'd probably be looking at more of a 5%. And then we have a 10% for the English is for small areas of concern, very short durations. Okay, so link below for guidelines for kids as well, because there are different guidelines for kids according to the English people, which usually defer to Tisserand from what I've seen and what I've learned. Next, we're talking about French. So I've seen all sorts of kind of recommendations, but I'm going to actually take the general recommendations that were presented at the Congrès des Grâces in October 2017, and that's when Tisserand went to France, I believe, or his team. But there's a blog post, which I'll link down below if you actually want to see it. It's in French, but I'll translate it right now so you guys can see what I mean. So they said for 0.5 to 1%, it's dermocaustic, so like with the skin and stuff. Dermocosmetic, so with your skin, cosmetic kind of stuff. 3%, this was a term that I actually had trouble translating, and I asked my husband who's French, and he was also like, it's not too clear. I think it's a France term, but réparation tegumentaire. We're thinking it's more like skin repair, and it's talks about like solutions like vaginal, nasal, and then we're debating what the other word, if it means actually ear, which I think it does. So 3%. 5% is for the central nervous system. So that's like stress or well-being. This is French. So 5% for the central nervous system, where if you look at the English, we usually look at 1% for that. 7%. So 7% is for circulatory action. So if you're looking at in terms of like blood, lymphatic flow, lymphatic like congestion and stuff like that, we're looking at a 7%. And then a 10% is really when we're looking on actions for the muscles, the tendons, and the joints. So if you have an overworked muscles, if you hurt your muscles, if you have like, I don't know, like problems, issues, relief you want with your joints, you're looking at a 10% generally in France. Okay, so again, quick disclaimer, I know there may be some that people will be like, oh no, I've learned something slightly different. But generally speaking, I find like this was the best kind of, outline. Number 4. How formal English aromatherapy training and French aromatherapy really shaped how I use and how I view essential oils. So I'll share with you a little bit about where I am in my studies. So I started my studies in 2019. I've completed in like 2020 my level 1. I'm still continuing my studies. So I'm still doing my certificate just because I want to really advance in my studies, even though technically I could stop now and call myself an aromatherapist. So in 2015, I started with the MLM world, started using essential oils, and I realized that just kind of anything went. There was really that philosophy that, essential oils are pure, so they're natural, so they're safe. You don't have to worry about safety precautions. No such thing as drug interactions. No such thing as having to worry about safety. Everything's safe for kids. Everything's safe for pregnancy almost. And that cannot be further from the truth. So I came from that where anything went. Then I went to go get my certification, which is a lot more conservative and restricted than back in the MLM world where anything went, but it was safer. But I realized that when I was doing my certification, when I started, I felt like it was really it created a lot of fear in terms of essential oils, that I started to view essential oils as dangerous, potentially like something bad's going to happen if I do something wrong, which really wasn't that fun. And then I moved to the point where I was able to be comfortable with essential oils again. And then that was when I was doing my certification that I started to realize more about French aromatherapy. Maybe it's actually a thing. And that was something that really opened me up a little bit more to be more liberal, less conservative with my essential oil usage and how I use essential oils. I'm not saying that I went wild or I used it unsafely, but I felt like what I was learning in my certification was really restrictive for me. And finding the French aromatherapy gave me the freedom to be able to use essential oils where I didn't have to always be scared of things. Like I of course keep safety into consideration when I use oils. Okay, I just want to be clear about that. So I would say that we have like English aromatherapy, where I see a lot in North America, where I feel like it's pretty conservative. Then I feel like French aromatherapy is really liberal. I find myself to be somewhere in the middle, trying to find ways like where to find myself depending on what I'm using essential oils for. I'm still careful though. I still follow rules. I still use my safety books, like my Tisserand safety book. I do look at French aromatherapy safety stuff as well, but I'm not constantly scared or worried as much as I was when I first started studying aromatherapy, and just felt like there was just one way. It's black and white, only 2%, only 3%. I don't live in that fear anymore. I follow those guidelines, of course, when I use case studies, but I don't live like that personally. And something I do want to mention too, because if you were listening to what I just said, as you'll see that like for certain things, English speakers will say, oh, just use 2% or 3%, where people in France might use 10%. And you might be saying, well, which one should I use? For me, I say, like, if the lower dilution rate works for you, why not use the lower dilution rate? Because there's a few things going on. You're being more sustainable in the way you use essential oils, so we're not wasting precious resources. And you're lowering the risks of just different safety risks that can happen. And it's also saving you money, because if you're using less essential oils as you are diluting, why not? But yeah, so just something I would say. And my conclusion after kind of going from MLM to getting certified to learning more about French aromatherapy was that these blanket statements that I feel like a lot of English aromatherapists have, and saying that like MLMs are completely wrong, I don't think that's necessarily the case. And I'm realizing that maybe not all the information that MLMs put out are necessarily bad or wrong, but there are a lot of things that are super dangerous. So it's really kind of like, it's a gray area to be navigating all that. But I'm hoping that one day I can actually bring someone on here that's actually a French aromatic practitioner who is really open to, using essential oils like internally, like that's his, his specialty, like in terms of, French aromatherapy and stuff like that. But he also disagrees with a lot of dangerous things going on with MLM. So I think I'd like to eventually maybe bring him on to really explore that together with you guys. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things in the MLM world that is really dangerous. So just because I'm saying these things, I don't want you guys to let your guard down and say, oh, it's okay, we're doing the French method, which I covered earlier in this live. So my conclusion on safety, reflection points, and my personal opinion, I would say, again, don't fall for the French aromatherapy being a marketing term to promote unsafe usage, which I see a lot in MLM communities, just something I see. If you're a part of a company that promotes unsafe usage of essential oils, so we're like putting essential oils in your water, constantly ingesting essential oils casually as a preventative measure, not properly diluted, directly dropping bottles into your mouth, directly like putting undiluted essential oils in your mouth all the time, not diluting at all. I highly recommend, as I would say to a friend, do your safety research elsewhere. Okay, so do your safety research elsewhere. If you love the oils, use what you love. I'm happy for you. I love when people find companies they love, but know where to get your proper safety information so you can make safe and empowered decisions for you and your family. And yeah, again, drinking essential oils in your water, not recommended. Personally, I generally always recommend using essential oils diluted if you're using them topically or even internally, but I don't work with promoting and giving recipes on internal usage because I don't think I can anyways. And reflection, another thing I would say that I really reflect about is that if I was practicing as an aromatherapist with clients, which I don't really intend to do, is I probably would stay on the more safe, more conservative side of following the English aromatherapy way, lower dilution rates, all the safety precautions, plus respecting French safety precautions. And conclusion, as I said before, it's hard for me to say that French aromatherapy doesn't exist, as people always tell me, as different kind of even English aromatherapists tell me, just because I've seen blatant differences in both cultures, people from France, people from like English speaking places. There really is two different ways of using the essential oils, two different philosophies, two different like safety precautions. There's overlap, yes, but it's hard for me to say that they don't exist. And yeah, of course, if you guys want to know a good safety book, we have the Essential Oil Safety Book. This is what a lot of English-speaking aromatherapists use. It's by Tisserand, Robert Tisserand and Rodley Young. I will put a little affiliate link down below if you want to learn more, look at different kind of helpful links that are related to this issue. I posted it down below. And for those, wanted to get a deeper knowledge of French aromatherapy, I mean, you could also get French aromatherapy books, learn French, pair it with the French dictionary, and dive deeper. Again, if you have anything you want to add, feel free to add it down below. I'll put little videos popping up on the replays so that if you are interested in watching other videos, go ahead. Hope this was helpful. Sharing with you guys all that I know. Bye.